that Donald Trump blew Bubba. And I don't know that he actually blew a guy. I don't know. But Mark Epstein denied that it was Bill Clinton.
We're going to go ahead and check out a clip here from Piers Morgan's show. Cenk Uygur, Brian Tyler Cohen, Officer Talmud, and Michael Knowles. Truly a cast of characters, and they are talking about Trump, the Epstein files, and Bubba. Let's get into it.
On that, let's stay there for a second. We're all ignoring the elephant in the room. There's an email that says that Donald Trump blew Bubba. Now, some people think Bubba is Bill Clinton. Some people think it's a horse. Some people think whatever. Now, I didn't write the email. In fact, when I first saw it online, I didn't even believe it. And I couldn't believe it's actually true.
Do you believe it now?
Hang on. Just to explain to viewers who might be at the moment shouting at their screen thinking, what? So this is a message reported as originating from Mark Epstein, Jeffrey Epstein's brother. He is the one who sends this to Jeffrey Epstein. He has since publicly denied that it was referring to Bill Clinton, but has offered no clarification as to who it was referring to. Clinton, of course, had that nickname, amongst others. I mean, it could just be a joke between brothers. It could just be a slur.
Oh, boy.
Or it could be something else, I guess. I just find it very, very hard.
I have a question, Piers.
What's that?
I guess.
I have a question for Cenk. Cenk, do you really believe, forget about Trump for a second, do you think that Trump is Bill Clinton's type? Everything, we know a lot about Bill Clinton's sex life. Do you really think large blonde men, that's Bubba's type? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So, guys, this is a classic distraction. That's funny, but I don't know if Bubba's Bill Clinton. I don't care if it's Bill Clinton. I'd be surprised if it was Bill Clinton. But,
to say the least.
And I don't know that he actually blew a guy. I don't know. But Mark Epstein denied that it was Bill Clinton, but didn't deny that Donald Trump actually gave a blowjob. So it's not me.
Come on, none of us. I don't think
Epstein's brother. I don't trust him.
Even you
but
believe that.
Hold on.
Why? What reason do we have to not believe that Trump could be sucking some peen? I mean, like, Trump is kind of femmy. I mean, you know, he does. He has his moments. He has his kind of gay moments. You know, he's a Republican, far right Republican. He could be one of these closeted types. I don't know. I'm just saying, we don't know.
Let me finish the thought. Hold on. No. And then Jeffrey Epstein says, well, the Russians would love to get their hands on that picture or something along those lines. So wait, is that a joke? That doesn't sound like a joke. So look, I'm not saying he definitely did it, but is it possible that Donald Trump was embarrassed that would come out? Of course. Okay, but that's only half the equation and the less important half of the equation. The main reason why it never came out, both under Trump and under Democratic administrations, is because it obviously involves intelligence agencies. This is not complicated. And Officer Tatum says, oh, okay, it might be the CIA. I agree. Maybe it's the CIA and Mossad working together. But there's no question. You could look at the 4-part series on Drop Site News. The former Prime Minister of Israel's emails have been released, and Epstein and him constantly are coordinating about how to push America into a war. And they're talking about only the benefit of Israel. They never talk about the benefit of America. And Epstein is using almost all of his power to help Israel. That's now an established fact. And that's way more important than Bubba, right? And yet that's another giant elephant in the room. And mainstream media is like, oh, no, it involves Israel, so we can't talk about it. Well, that explains everything. That explains why both parties have been covering this up, because it involves potentially our government or a beloved special allies government.
Officer Tatum.
And being completely compromised. And if you look at, just follow the breadcrumbs, follow the money, follow whatever is actually happening. Trump is doing everything he can. He's going out of his way, bending over backwards to make sure Israel gets everything and anything that they want. Whatever policy, whatever war, wherever they want the capital moved, whatever weapons deal, etc., they get exactly what they want every step of the way. And Trump barely pushes back. He says things every now and then like, oh, they're like fucking, going out of control or whatever. But it's just speech. He's not actually doing anything. Trump is 100% compromised. He is 1,000% compromised, and it's not even close.
Look, I don't know the answer to this, but I would say, having read a lot about Jeffrey Epstein now and the circles he mixed in and the circles he brought to his home and to his island, when you put it all together, it is absolutely not beyond the realms of fantasy. In fact, I would say it heads more to a high likelihood that he was up to his neck in it with intelligence agencies of some kind, maybe myriad intelligence agencies. It would absolutely go with his persona and the type of people he was getting around his table on a sort of almost daily basis. So I certainly wouldn't want to bet the bank on him having no attachment to Mossad or CIA or anybody else.
Duh.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that either. I have no idea what exactly is involved in this, and nobody does. I mean, it's a very complicated situation. Nobody understands the totality of this, because he was arrested under Donald Trump's first term, if I'm not mistaken. They had the information there. It was we had the White House and everything. We could have divulged whatever needs to be divulged, and people are going to argue if they don't get the results they want that it was deleted.
Just shows you how dense Officer Talmud is. They couldn't release that information back then because it was an ongoing investigation. Actually, this part is important. Right. They couldn't release all of that information back then because they had an ongoing investigation. It could be tampering with evidence, etc. Same thing under Biden's administration. They were doing the trial with Ghislaine Maxwell. Now that all of that is done and, theoretically in the past, what you have is that Trump is now trying to open up another new investigation so that they can go back to falling back on that excuse and say, no, we can't release the files because it's an ongoing investigation. I just opened another investigation. Just like Trump always would say, oh no, I can't release my taxes. I can't release my tax return because I'm being audited. And everybody knows that you can't release your tax returns while you're being audited. And he used that for, literally like 10 straight years while he was running for president to not release his tax. Of course, we eventually got them and it wasn't that big of a deal. He bulldozes past that anyway. I think the Epstein stuff is different, and obviously he's doing everything he absolutely can to hide whatever dirt is in there.
It was somehow some nefarious thing that went on. Then the Clintons, and then Joe Biden had it forever, and they did nothing. They didn't even mention any impropriety about Donald Trump. You would think if Donald Trump had blown some guy and they had an email, they would at least leak that email. They wouldn't say.
I think it's kind of funny that Michael Knowles kind of giggles every time he hears about blowing guys. I don't know. I'm just saying. I don't know.
They wouldn't mention nothing else. They would leak an email about Donald Trump, at least before the election, to make him look bad so he'll never get into office, and they can continue to cover this up forever in perpetuity.
You know why I think they didn't?
Unless Israel ordered them not to.
So
it's a misspelling.
It might be. Hang on. It might be simpler than that.
It's crazy to me.
It might be simpler than that. My gut feeling.
Biden listened to every single thing Israel said.
My gut feeling about this, Officer Tatum, is the reason actually in the end neither side has felt compelled to release all these files is I suspect when we see them all that both sides have a lot of blood on their hands, not literally, but in terms of embarrassing revelation, perhaps evidence of alleged criminality and so on. I suspect you'll see this is a proper bipartisan scandal. I only base that on the type of guests that Epstein was having all the time. They were from every part of American high society, Democrat, Republican, you name it, they were trotting down there. So, from what I'm gathering from people who've seen these files, there's a lot of embarrassment to be had for both parties, which may explain why both parties have been reluctant to put it all out into the public domain.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that to a certain degree, because it does appear to be that way. There's people that have mentioned, obviously on television and the like, that there are people that may be implicated that probably did not commit a crime. They have just been accused of committing a crime from victims with no evidence. And so I think there's a risk in that they don't want to expose people that have not been able to go through justice. But I would argue, as crooked as the Democrats were, you would think that they would float and release things to make sure that Donald Trump would get in office, and therefore they can have the White House again, and no one would ever know.
I do agree with that. I have to say, I do agree with that. Brian, just to bring you in here, I mean, they tried to jail him for just about everything. People tried to kill Donald Trump several times in that campaign. The idea that the Democrats...
Such fucking bullshit, Piers. People tried to kill Donald Trump. Again, two right-wingers ostensibly got shots off at him and then were planning to do another thing. Lord knows about other plots, but just bringing that up like willy-nilly as if like the Democrats were putting people up to do something against Trump it's just ridiculous.
with these files in their possession would not have trawled them at some stage for stuff which could be damaging to Trump, if not disqualifying, I think it's for the birds. They must have done. And if they didn't, they're even more useless and incompetent than the polls currently suggest.
Well, first of all, let's not conflate they with the Democrats in terms of who tried to assassinate Donald Trump.
I didn't say that. I was very careful. I said they tried to...
I heard the hedging language, but I just wanted to state as well.
I'll be crystal clear. They, i.e. the left, tried to jail him for absolutely everything. That's uncontestable. And
yeah, for committing crimes, like just for actually committing crimes and trying to hold people accountable. So
and there were attempts to take his life several times.
And they justified the assassination.
Right. I'm not pinning that on Democrats, but I'm saying that there was a lot going on in that year to stop Donald Trump becoming president again, either through imprisonment or through killing him. And the idea that no one on the left in possession of these files would not have trawled them for damaging information, I think is stretching credulity, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's that difficult to understand. As I understand it, like I just said, they couldn't release them because there was ongoing investigations. It would be illegal to do so. And the other side of it is likely, and I don't think Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Obama or any of these characters are in there, but are potential, bigwig donors and, people that are connected to the Democrats or maybe even some politicians as well in those files. Probably likely. I would assume, it seems to be the case, that much more dirt is in there on Republicans and Trump specifically. Otherwise, why would he be going absolutely out of his mind, melting down every other day and trying every last trick in the book to have these things not come out? It is, is it going to be his political end? I mean, he's pretty much already ended himself politically with his own actions. We've seen that his presidency has been an unmitigated disaster. And anybody that's trying to argue otherwise, you have to have your head checked. I mean, it's just on any end of the spectrum, we can point out a number of ways that this presidency has been a predictable failure, is absolutely failing and floundering. So anyway, we'll see if those ever come out. I know they just voted to release those files. That has to go over to the Senate. Obviously, there are a number of layers that still have to fall before those actually come out. There's going to be redactions. There's going to be manipulation. Trump gets the final word with his pen as well. And so we'll see what happens with that. Let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments. Love to hear from you. Drop a like, subscribe, all of those things, and I'll see you guys in the next one.